Muy buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, pues sea lo que sea la hora, bienvenidos a esta lección de gramática. Hoy día nosotros exploramos el imperfecto, the imperfect tense. Today, I'm just going to give you the breakdown of this tense, what it means, how to use it, and of course, the conjugations. Let's begin. Now, in our TPRS discussion days, we've used these quite a bit. These are some imperfect examples. So había would be there was or there were, as in había una chica, there was a girl. We have estaba, which is he or she was in a location, because remember, estar is where you are or how you are doing, okay? Not necessarily what you are, right? That's ser. We'll get to that later, okay? This is location and feelings, right? For example, estaba en Winnipeg. She was in Winnipeg. And tenía we've used to express he or she had or didn't have. For example, el gato de Elena no tenía un teléfono. So, what does the imperfect express? Or, like, when do we use it, okay? Generally speaking, when we have, like, non-actions, like, it's not like threw or caught or went somewhere, right? When you are describing in the past, and there's not really an action, and it's in the past, this is when we use the imperfect. Recall our first three examples, right? Like, había una chica, there was a girl. That's not an action. That's a description, okay? Ella tenía un gato, right? She had a cat. It doesn't talk about her, she fed the cat, right? That would be preterite. But it's not an action, right? It's just she had a cat. It's a description. It's not an action, okay? This would be considered scene setting kind of language, okay? There's no actions. It's just we're describing the people and places and things, and we set the scene, usually in the imperfect tense. Now, we've only seen that like description scene setting example of the imperfect so far in our TPRS slides and our discussions, okay? But there are some other ways to think about the imperfect, okay? And I'm going to draw back the curtain a little bit about the preterite while I can, okay? When we do the preterite, and when you see the preterite in your reading, it's more like talking about things that a character did, okay? So I'll use a couple of examples from our leveled readers, right? For example, in Noches Misteriosas, Kevin went to Spain, right? Kevin fue a España. That would be, and I always put it in the frame of the verb to do, right? To do, doing, did, right? Because that's the most common verb in English, and it's just easy to think of it related to that verb in English, right? So that would be like Kevin did, right? It's not like he used to go to Spain. What? No. He was going to Spain? Maybe. Okay, we could say that. But really, él fue a España, right? So the preterite is like did, right? That's preterite. Okay? Did. Okay? Some other examples. Minerva spoke with Luz, right? Minerva habló con Luz. That's preterite. And just one more from Bananas. Mario climbed a tree. Mario se subió un árbol. So these are all examples of the preterite. And it's, again, think of it like did, right? One action in the past, boom, it happened, right? And that is not what we're talking about in this lesson. But I wanted to just show you that so you have that frame of reference, right? For the imperfect, think descriptions, scene setting, but also it can express like used to do something or was doing something. So make sure you write this down as well as like the scene setting stuff. and kind of have this in your back pocket. We're going to get to this stuff in a little bit later in the semester, but just have that handy. And now, of course, we get to the conjugations in these tenses. And just like we had in the present tense last semester, we have two sets of conjugations, generally speaking, okay? Right? So just recall, in first semester, right, for present tense, right, this was like o, as, a, amos, ais, an, right? Would be o, es, hemos, es, en, right? And then would be o, es, imos, is, en, right? That's all present tense, right? So it's the same, same thing, but we just have a new set of conjugations because we're in a different verb tense. Now, you already know the third person singular, like the he, she, right, Elea? So, like for example, estaba, right? The ending is aba, right? Estaba in Winnipeg. Elena estaba in Winnipeg, right? You know that. And you also know ir, right? Like tener, right? Tenía un gato. Elena tenía un gato. And, why don't I just show you with the stem, right? The stem of estar is est. We add aba, right? And you can expect to see, right, for example, the verb estar, the same stem throughout the conjugation set. And of course, the same will apply for the verb tener, for example, right? If you're going to have the same stem throughout, you really just have to focus what's in red. Now, the really nice thing about the imperfect is that the el, ella is identical, the exact same conjugation for the yo form. So estaba can mean like he was or she was, but it can also be yo estaba, I was, okay? Or yo tenía. Go ahead. I'm assuming that you have started copying this down. If not, pause, copy this, and then go ahead and can you just predict what the rest of these conjugations are? Write them in pencil, please. Please do it. It's a good practice to predict. And use what you know about verb conjugations from previous tenses. For example, this is going to end with s because it does in the present tense, right? This is estás in the present tense. It's going to be the same thing here, and it's going to be very similar. They're all very similar, right? If you know these conjugations, then you can get to these. And the same goes for these. So go ahead and predict what those are now. Go. All right. Go ahead and cross-reference these conjugations with what you wrote down. And of course, make sure you have the correct information. Of course, I do want to comment on some of these, right? Notice that every single conjugation has aba in it, right? For AR verbs, okay, or ada verbs. It's just we have to add a little bit of something, right? We have to add the s here, we have to add the mos here, make it ice here, and we have the n here, right? But it's a very predictable verb tense and really, really easy to master, okay? Same thing here, right? The common denominator in all these conjugations of tener and the imperfect are that they all have this accented I and an A, okay? Tenía, tenías, tenía, teníamos, teníais, tenía, okay? I forgot one thing. Let's go back here. Estábamos, okay? The nosotros ending for odd verbs is always going to have an accented a, right? So estábamos, jugábamos, celebrábamos. It's always going to have that accented a. And there is a little trick to double check and make sure you have the right accent. You go to your last vowel, one, or uno, dos, tres. You count 3 back from the last one, and that's always going to have the accent. That's a good little trick to know for the future with accent accuracy. Okay, let's just do a little bit of practice with an example of each type of verb, right? Jugar, comer, vivir in the imperfect, okay? Now I want to say something really quick. You know that jugar in the present tense is like juego, juegas. It's a stem changer, okay? Heads up. There are no stem changing verbs in the imperfect. None at all. Whew. And for that matter, there aren't a lot of irregulars. We'll look at the irregulars. There's only 3 in just a second. But, right, unlearn the stem change rule from the present tense. Remember it, but do not apply it here. Put another way, we're not going to say juegaba. It's going to be jugaba, right? Jugaba, etc. All right? Really quick, go ahead and predict what these conjugations are. Try to do it in under a minute. I would, time yourself and do a speed write. Do all of these conjugations. Ready, go. All right, here they are. Double check, make sure you have accent, accuracy, etc. You can pause if you want to do that. Okay. Good. Now let's practice the pronunciation, because remember, the better you can pronounce these, the better you're going to be aware of their spelling, and it just is going to make you more successful, i.e. you're going to get better grades on assessments, okay? And you'll be able to speak the language better, okay? So here we go. Say them with me. Ready? Here we go. Jugaba. Ay, ay, ay. My bad. So, jugabas. Jugaba. Jugábamos. Jugabais. Jugaban. Here. Comilla. Comillas. Comilla. Comíamos. Comíais. Comían. Vivía. Vivías. Vivía. Vivíamos. Vivíais. Vivían. Muy bien. Okay, let's look at our irregular verbs. Lucky for us in the imperfect, there are only 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the yo form of each of these, okay? Era is like I was, okay? For iba, or for ir, it's going to be iba, okay? And ver, it's going to be veía. So, based on, remember, if you know the yo form, the other 5 conjugations are very similar, right? So just use what you know, predict. Ready, go. And here they are, right? Okay, so just to be clear, right? Era, iba, veía, that's the base. And just the quick English translation, right? Era is like I was, or it could be I used to be. Iba, that could be, I used to go, or I was going, right? Not I went. That doesn't mean I went. It means I was going. Veía, ver, yeah, ve, right? It could be like I used to see, or I used to watch, or I was watching, I was seeing, right? Not I saw. No, it's not I saw. That's the preterite. Veía is like I was seeing, or I would see, I used to see. Things of that nature, right? Let's practice their pronunciations and let's take it to the end. Here we go. Ready? Era. Repeat these. Eras. Era. Éramos. Notice the accent. Erais. Accent. Eran. Okay, here we go. Iba. Ibas. Iba. Íbamos. Do you have the accent over the I here? You need to. Ibais. Accent over the A. Iban. Finally, ver, to see. Veía. Veías. Veía. Veíamos. Veíais. Veían. Notice how they all have accents over the I, okay? Hey, we're there, okay? Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your efforts. Bueno, gracias. Que tengan un buen día. Adiós. Chao.